Yo, yo, yo. Happy Sunday, happy Sunday, happy Sunday, everybody. Really excited to be with all of you tonight. Hope everyone had a great week and is getting pumped up for another week ahead here. Let me know, for those of you listening in live, where you're tuning in from. Super curious to see. Javante says Savannah. That's where my sister and her husband just moved, Savannah, Georgia. Let me know where you guys tuning in from. And guys, just so you know, if you are listening to the recording of this, a great place for you to be able to network and find other like-minded individuals would be to jump on Sunday Service Live. We do this every Sunday night, 7 p.m. Arizona time. Let me introduce myself. My name's Cody Barton. My business partner, Pace Morby, and I have been doing the Sunday Service podcast now for this summer is going to be 3 years, which is pretty crazy, honestly. Like three years that we've been going on every Sunday night, and we're happy to be here. And I am super excited to jump into tonight's call. But for those that may be tuning in for the first time, what the heck is Sunday Service? Why? What's this thing about? So essentially, Pace and I, when we got together and started we combined forces with our companies, we essentially, one of the things that we always talked about was there's not really a community out there to really plug into that you can actually get answers to your real questions and to be able to find a group that actually is going to be able to help you. And so we talked about doing a call, this started out as just a phone call. Like, people would literally dial into a conference line and listen to us, and we would just talk about what was working in our real estate business, what wasn't working in our business. And then it turned into going on Instagram Live, and then all the way to today, which obviously we are streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and a few other platforms. And so from this, if you don't already know, there is a very active online community as well that we have. There's a free group that you can go and get involved with. So if you're, maybe just getting started in real estate, you're trying to find a community or trying to squat up and find other like-minded individuals like yourself, you could jump over to Facebook and go in the search bar and search Creative Finance with Pace Morby. And when that group comes up, jump into that group, introduce yourself, and, look for finding there you can look to find a lot of great people in there. There's tons of value in there. And it's a great place to be able to find help and, whatever market. I mean, Christian saying, I've done so many deals with people in that group. I mean, literally a free Facebook group community for you to be able to jump into. So, just wanted to share that quick history for those that didn't know where Sunday Service came from, what happened there. Just so you guys know, Pace is literally, as we speak, on a plane flying home from Boston to Arizona right now. So unfortunately, he's not going to be joining us tonight. But he did throw this topic at me. He's like, Cody, he's like, there's so many people that need help in their business. There's so many people that, where they want to hustle, but they don't have the resources to be able to do it. And every, now and then, Pace gets a crazy idea, gets a wild hair up his butt, and he's like, let's give away some money tonight. Let's give away some money. And I'm like, okay, well, we're not going to just give away money. Like, we got to give them something that they can use and learn and be able to make money with, right? And so he's like, okay, well, let's give away some lists. So that's what we're going to be doing on this live this evening, is going to be giving away some data from Batch Leads. So we're going to pull some lists in Batch Leads. I'm going to take a few people that, share what markets they're in. We'll probably do some of the Sunshine State markets and pull those. And what we're going to do is get those lists shared with the sub 2 students. And then the sub 2 students could then share those with other non-sub 2 students. So for those of you that are sub 2 students, you can get access to the list. Mention that in the Facebook group. And then from there, what we'll do is, you can connect with the sub 2 student to squat up with, so that's The reason that, Pace wanted to do that is to encourage the squatting up. And like, what the heck is squatting up, especially if you're like new? So squatting up is essentially just finding somebody that maybe is in the same local market as you, maybe not, but finding somebody that, you can, network with, that you can, have good conversations with around your goals and where you're trying to go, and that you could have, kind of some masterminding sessions between each other. And, maybe one of you has, maybe one of you has a, for example, has some money that you could spend on some marketing, and somebody else doesn't have money, but you have time, so you can hustle. So whatever that is that you have, I mean, totally, that's the whole purpose of squatting up, is finding someone, seeing where you can mesh and where you can add value to each other and help each other out. So Connor says, last week's Sunday service donations become this week's list. Yes. Pace is crazy. I'm like, dude, you got to stop giving away money all the time. It's stressing me out, man. But we're going to do it. That's what we're doing tonight. So we're going to rock with it. So we will pull some lists. I'm probably going to take 2 to 3 markets, depending. This may spread into next week as well, because I don't want to rush it. So we may not get all of it out tonight, but we will get for sure at least 2 lists pulled this evening, so we can rock with that. So without further ado, the first market that I saw somebody say they wanted, actually, literally before I even asked, like, what market would you guys like to do? Somebody said Jacksonville, Florida. So that's going to be the first one that I pull. I got to find who said that on here. Hunter Stocks said Jacksonville, literally exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to pull some lists in Jacksonville. So I'm going to take a little bit of audience participation here. What type of list do you think I should pull? So we are going to spend a few $100s on this. Somebody, St. Manuel, says pre-foreclosure. I want to get some feedback from the audience. Like, what type of list or do you think that we should pull in Jacksonville, Florida? I see you guys saying Memphis, South Carolina, all these different markets, but what type of list? We're sticking with residential properties. We're going to do residential. But is there a certain, pre-foreclosure, absentee, or do you guys just want me to say, go with what you would pull in that market, Cody? That's also okay too. And I'll go with either one. So we have a lot of pre-foreclosures. Okay, I think pre-foreclosures are definitely the ones that are standing out the most. I mean, oh my gosh, yeah, there's probably at least 20 pre-foreclosures on here. So let's do. Victoria says you choose. I think I'm going to go with the masses and choose to do the pre-foreclosures. So let's rock with that. I'm going to screen share. So obviously, if you're listening to this and it's not live, then that's okay. You probably want to watch the at least the video version of this. But here we go. Let me get us into batch leads. And by the way, guys, batch leads is actually our sponsor of Sunday service. So while I'm doing this, if you don't already have a batch leads account set up, you can use batchleads.io/Sunday and get access to 5,000 free records that you can then, skip trace, cold call, text, whatever you want to do with it. So I'm going to leave that there. For those that have not used it before, you can get set up there. But all right, let's rock and roll and share my screen here. And since I do not have Pace here to help me out with, questions as I'm going through this, I'm going to just kind of run through it. I'll probably bounce back once or twice as I'm going through it, but I don't want to make it too confusing with me going back and forth here. But let's go ahead and dive into batch leads. And for those that may have seen this, some of this might be very basic for you, but for those that have never seen it, looks like we're doing something crazy. So if you're somewhere in the middle, let's have some fun with it. So I'm going to share my screen. Bam. Okay. So we are on the dashboard of batch leads. And what we're going to go ahead and do is go over to, there's all these different tabs on the side, but we're going to go to list search. That's what we want to do. And then it is pretty simple to actually get a list pulled here. So what we're going to do is type in Jacksonville, Florida. We're going to go ahead and search. All right. And then what we're going to do, because we want pre-foreclosure. So it looks, if you guys can see this, there's 331,000 records that come up that are just in Jacksonville. But obviously, we need to narrow this down. Something that you can do, just to make it really easy, guys, if you just want to, if you don't want to do too much of an in-depth criteria, you could just do a quick filter and just select directly onto the pre-foreclosure properties here. So if I wanted to, I could just select, these 847 properties that are in pre-foreclosure. But the thing is, I want to get a little bit more niched down on these records. So usually I like to have the kind of the median price and below that we're going to market to. And the reason, and there's no problem with marketing to higher end properties in the market that you're in. But for the marketing that Pace and I have always done, we've always stuck with the median home price because there's the most amount of buyers. And if we're going to be marketing for properties that we're going to either rent or to be reselling, we want to go to where there's the most amount of buyers that could buy. We want to go to the price point that the most amount of renters can rent. We don't want to be in too high of a price point. We also we don't want to be in like the slums either. We like to be in the property where it's, great working class families that, have good jobs, that really want to be in those areas. And, they're generally safe, so to speak, depending on the area, but generally good areas, right? So that's the type of stuff we like to market to. So I'm just going to type in. So this is median home price, Jacksonville, Florida, because I have no freaking idea, guys. I don't know what the median home price is here. Realtor.com in April 2022, median listing home price is 299,000, trended up 20% year over year. Can we say inflation? Anybody? Inflation? Because obviously, as most of you have seen, prices have went up. The cost of gas has went up. The cost of food has went up. The cost of rent has gone up. The cost of real estate has gone up. All the things have went up. So, yes, that. Sorry for the tangent there, but it is kind of crazy seeing how much things have went up in value, or lost the dollar losing value more per se. So this is something that I just look at though. So if you're in a new market and you're like, I don't know really, what's the median price? Literally just a quick Google search. So I'm going to want properties that are $300,000 and below. So I'm going to jump back over to batch and I'm going to take a peek and see what, well, first of all, I'm going to make sure I'm looking at residential properties because that's what I want to be focusing on. Property types. I'm going to just let's pick single family. Let's throw in duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes in that as well. Those are all considered residential properties also. And let's roll with that. Let's see what we get from those. And then the other thing I'm going to do is MLS status, which is multiple listing service for the market in Jacksonville. Meaning, is it listed with a realtor right now or not? I do not want ones that are listed with a realtor. So I'm going to select no on that section. And then from there, what we're going to do is we're going to select apply and see how many records. We're going to go from 847 to, let's hang on here. Let me see. With that filter. Now we have 651. I'm going to jump back real quick just to make sure there's no questions as I'm looking through this. And for those that are saying, hey, go to other markets, hang on. I want to get through this real quick. Okay. All right. Ezra says it's a crazy world we're living in. Yes, I'm assuming that was into inflation and prices going up. All right, So Hunter is saying median is about 250. So it looks like it's about 300 now, just based on some of those changes that occurred. So I'm going to jump back over sharing my screen, but just want to make sure I didn't miss any questions. All right. Okay, so now we have 651 records. That's really not that many, but we're gonna pull this list regardless. So let's go ahead, select all, and we're gonna call this our Jacksonville, just our Jacksonville list. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna tag this pre-foreclosures for Jacksonville. So I need to make a note for my homework after this live so that I get these in a Google Drive to get to the sub 2 students. Okay, so we got 651. I want to do another market and change up the criteria a little bit. Because what I did, guys, is I just have the list pulled. Let's see if it's actually ready. Maybe I could actually skip trace it. I'm not going to go and show, the process every single time, but I'll go through it at least, once on here. So let's go ahead. I'm going to grab the filter and see the Jacksonville list that I pulled and see if those are ready to be skip traced. So it looks like they're still importing in. So I will take a second and let's look at another market. You know what? I saw this a few times on here. So Colton says Savannah. I'm going to do Savannah, and the reason why is because my sister and her husband are there, and I actually I'm a private money lender for fix and flips that they do in Savannah. So that would be a win-win for me as well on the giveaway. Hopefully you get a deal. Maybe you could sell it to my sister and her husband, and then maybe I could lend the money on it. That would be pretty freaking cool. So I'm gonna do Savannah, Georgia. I've never actually looked at pulling a list there either. Man, I saw somebody posted a message on, hey, hey Cody, how do you comp properties? I have a YouTube video actually on my YouTube channel. If you want to jump over to there, or you could bookmark the link, literally type in Cody Barton how to comp, and it will probably pop up there. You could jump over to my channel and watch those. I go over in specifics, like how you comp, single family versus condos versus townhomes versus manufactured homes, and like the way that an appraiser is going to look at the value of a property. So I go through that specifically on my channel. It is important to know how to comp. So, you could watch the video, you could practice using batch leads, you could practice using Zillow, you could practice using a few different platforms to do that. All right. So while I was talking there, I'm going to jump over and see if that list finished uploading so I could skip trace that bad boy. And just while we're at it, while we're waiting here, Pace and I are looking to buy more creative finance deals. Whoops. Really any market where it makes sense for Airbnb, we're open to buying creative finance properties. We're open to buying fix and flips, creative finance stuff in Arizona. I will make sure to post our real estate operations manager's email on here. Her name's Amali, just in case anyone has deals they want to send our way. Okay, so we have our 651 Jacksonville properties. What we're going to go ahead and do is we have selected all of those. We're going to skip trace these. Jacksonville. We're spending some of Pace's money, guys. Don't tell them. Okay, so we are adding some tokens into our batch leads account here. Okay, so we have our Jacksonville skip trace of pre-foreclosures. About that. So I am literally just going to skip trace them. So now what's going to happen, they're going to be skip traced. I could export those. I could export these properties out of batch leads, put them in call tools. I could push them right over into batch dialer if I'm going to be using that. I could export them, put them into some text platform if I want to do that. I could export them into a mailing platform if I want to do that. So you have a lot of options of what you want to do with that data once you actually have it. So hopefully that helps, but let's go ahead and jump back over here. Oh yeah, let me throw saying NFT real estate. Okay, so I'm dropping this email in here. I saw Hector says, "What's the best way for us to do business together?" Maybe that was in relation to us, or maybe that was somebody else in the comments. But I'm going to take that as that was in relation to Pace and myself. So if you are in a market where Airbnb would be great, Pace and I are looking to buy subject to properties, seller finance properties anywhere in the US when it comes to sub two or seller carries, as long as it's a good Airbnb market. Um, or if you have a deal pretty much anywhere in Arizona that's sub two seller carry, or that could be a cash deal, that could be wholesale price for us to purchase to fix and flip. Happy to buy those deals as well. You can send an email to Molly at americahomeoffers.com and send any deal details, anything that you want her to have our team look at, and we could see if it's something that would work for us. So hopefully we could do some business together, Hector and everybody else. So let me see here. Hunter says Jacksonville Beach is popping off with Airbnbs. I will be on the hunt. Let's do it, man. I'm excited to I'm definitely excited to be able to buy some more in Florida. We're working on one in West Palm Beach right now. I'm fingers crossed the contract is in the seller's inbox and hopefully she signs so we can have a West Palm Beach Airbnb. So what do you consider good Airbnb markets? I mean, honestly, that's going to be any markets that people actually want to go and vacation to generally. International markets, not interested because we cannot get depreciation. We can't get tax write-offs buying properties in other countries because unfortunately, the US government only wants to incentivize us to purchase properties in the United States and give us tax benefits off of those. But if you did have a great deal in Costa Rica and Tamarindo or Tulum, Mexico, I would definitely look at those, but not super promising for those areas. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and do the Savannah list here. And again, for those of you that are wondering how the heck do I get a hold of the list, what you want to do if you're not a sub 2 student is go into the Facebook group, find a sub 2 student and be able to get the list through them. Sub 2 students, you'll get access to it and you can go ahead and just literally get the list, and I'll get that posted in the sub 2 Facebook group tomorrow because I am probably going to be getting ready for bed after this and I'll get it done tomorrow morning. So let's go ahead and pull Savannah. Let's go see what's up in Savannah. Okay. So we're going to do it again. Median home price in Savannah, Georgia. Looks like 261,000. Again, I'm not taking this as gospel because, you know, realtor.com says 315. So I'm just going to throw in 300,000 as our max that we want. So let's do it. Okay, so we are once again, we are searching the area number 1. And then what we want to do is narrow this down a bit. So I do want to have residential properties only. I do want single family homes. I'm probably going to do multifamily here as well. So like duplex, triplex, fourplex. And then I'm also, again, going to make sure it's not properties on the market. I don't want properties that are listed on the MLS right now. I don't want those. And then the value of the property, estimated value, I'm going to do 300,000. I don't want, again, guys, we don't want any properties over 300,000. I kind of want to be in that lower, kind of median and below price point for the market. And that kind of goes countrywide. Any market that we ever do marketing in, we're always trying to stick within whatever that median and below price is. So we had our value. Something else, I'm gonna change this one up a little bit because this is a list that I would actually want to work in that market. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to put age. I'm going to do 55 plus because I want older owners that may be looking to sell soon. Maybe they're looking to downsize. Maybe they're looking to, make some sort of change because they're getting older. It is interesting. You can do ailments like allergies, arthritis. Like that's kind of crazy. But I am just going to stick with age. And then excuse me. One other thing that I'm going to do is years of ownership. I want people, the average homeowner, I don't know if this data has changed, so don't yell at me and say, Cody, it's actually 8 years or 9 years, or it's maybe less. But the average, as far as a couple of years ago, statistic that I used to follow was the average amount of time that somebody would own their home for. And the average was about 7 years. So and that's when they would be considering or thinking more about selling. So I'm just going to look for property owners that have owned it for 7 or more years. And let's see, what other info do we want to throw in this bad boy? So we had our values. We threw in up to 300,000 demographics. All right. So we are going to apply. That should narrow us down. Ooh, that's actually a pretty small little list there. That's good. Okay. So we have just under 2,000 records that came up here for Savannah. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to see out of these absentee owned, there's 470 of these that are absentee owned. So because this is such a small list, I think what I'm going to do is just pull the whole list. I'm going to see if there's any other criteria that I want to throw in here to kind of narrow it down a little bit. I'm going to do individual owned only just to make it easier that I'm not pulling up any LLCs. We just dropped 200. So we're going to pull these 1,700 on this list here. Savannah is a smaller town than like a Jacksonville. So it is going to have less records. So let's go ahead, grab all these. New list, Savannah. And we will tag it 55 plus, 1 for 7+ years. Let's throw that in there. Okay, so that's going to start doing the import, and we'll be able to see what results come back on there. All right, let's see here. Let me see what questions that I have here. So that's going to take a few minutes to download. But you guys can. Let me see what questions that you guys might have about the list. Questions about the list polling, anything in relation to that. Chris says, "Hey Cody, what's the mic that you use?" Rodecaster Pro, I believe. Pace told me to buy. Basically, what happened was Pace just took my phone, put all this stuff in the cart of the stuff that I needed to buy, and then I just bought all of it. So I don't know that much about my gear. Hence my setup not being as beautiful as Pace's. I still need to get my background from. I just moved into this house a few months back. Still haven't done my studio up, but hey, it's where we're at right now. Jack says, what's the Facebook group again? So if you want to go to, let me see, Creative Finance with Pace Morby, you can search that on Facebook and it'll literally be the first group that comes up when you search that, and you could join that group. I just saw that Jack asked where to find that group. So Alex is asking, what SMS platform do you use after you pull your list? So right now we've been using Launch Control as the one that we're going to text through. But there's a lot of different text platforms you can use. That's just the one that we've been using. I think they're all relatively pretty similar. It's really just going to be about pricing, honestly. Ooh, this is a good question. So I apologize if I butcher your name, but Savaiki says, how fast can you go through that list? So a list of about 1,700 records. Here's a nugget if you're cold calling or if you're texting. So this is super important if you're going to be doing either of those things. So if you are using a dialer, so what is a dialer? A dialer is an automated calling system that's something like Batch Dialer, like Call Tools, Zen Call. There's a lot of different dialing systems out there. But if you're going to be using a dialing system to call through a list, in one day, if you're using a dialer that's calling through multiple lines at a time, you should be able to call through 800 to 1,000 records in a 6 to 8 hour day. So what does that look like? Like what, taking that into actual leads and, contracts and all those things. So if you dial through 800 to 1,000 records, like our virtual assistants at startvirtual.com, for example, when they're cold calling, they'll dial 800 to 1,000. Got a bug attacking me here. Sorry, guys. They'll call through 800 to 1,000 records in a 6 to 8 hour day. And in that day, they'll typically get connected on the phone with about 100 to 120 people. Does not mean that they actually had, those were all leads, right? Out of those 100, 120 connects that they get in the day, I'm hopeful that they can get somewhere between 1 to 3 leads a day. I'm happy to get one at least every day. I'm ecstatic if I get 2 to 3 leads or more in a day. And so if you look at that as, okay, I have if you have 1,000 records, you'd call through it in a day. This is, a recommendation that I give people is if they're going to be, if you're going to be the one calling them or you have a virtual assistant calling them, whatever that looks like for you, if you're calling through, and let's say an amount that you need for a month. If you're going to have a virtual assistant calling for a month, or whether it's you calling every day for a month, you want to have at least 5,000 records. Because what's going to happen is, I know you're thinking, Cody, well, if you can call through 1,000 in a day, how is it going to last you a month? Because this is what you're going to do with those records. You're going to call through those in a day. And then what's going to happen, or the 1,000 you'd call through in a day. So in a week, you're going to call through the entire list of 5,000 records. So every week for the month that you're calling through that list of data, you want to then be recycling that data. So what the heck does that mean, Cody? Well, that means basically from all the people that you called over like the first 5-day period, that first week, you're going to, remove out any of the do not calls. You're going to remove out any that turned into leads. Obviously, you don't want to call them again if you already have them in as a lead in your CRM, right? In your Excel or whatever you're using for your CRM. So you're going to recycle it for all the people that did not answer the phone out of those 5,000 records that were called. And you're going to call through it again. And then you're going to do it again and do it again. You can do that 4 to 6 times with one list of 5,000 records that'll last you about a month before you really need to pull another list. But obviously, it's kind of like it's like a sponge, right? Like that, a list of 5,000 records could be equated to kind of like a sponge, where like if the first time you kind of do a little bit of a squeeze, like, a lot of water is going to drop out of the sponge, right? Where it wasn't that hard that first time that you did that. But then like week 2, you squeeze the sponge a little bit harder, and it's like, it's a little bit harder to get liquid to come out of there. By the time you're squeezing it for the 3rd, 4th, 5th time without, getting fresh water on there, you're going to be like, straining to get anything to come out of it. So like that's what happens after you've recycled a list, 4, 5, 6 times. You still want to do it those 4 or 5 times, up to 6 times based on how good the list is performing for you. But it's super important to know that you have to know what you're looking to get, because that's one of the biggest things that I see people making the mistake of is, I see clients like at Start Virtual, for example, they'll go, uh, they'll have, 5,000 records, and then they expect that to last for like 2 months with their one virtual assistant. And they're, confused on why they're not taking over the world with one 5,000 record list. You got to have the right amount of data. So it's important to know that. So hopefully that was helpful to understand, especially when you're calling. Savakai says, "Can you show us how to pull 10,000 records?" Pulling one record is the same way you pull 10,000. It's just going to be different data sets, like different criterias of info that you're going to be pulling. The sponge metaphor. Yeah, hopefully that made sense. I mean, let's see. Let's see. Michael says Savannah should be a good list. It's a college city and the only beach we have in Georgia. I'm pumped. I'm pumped too. I think it should be cool. Let's see. So there's actually a good question here. Um, Michael says, "What's the average cost of a VA? Average cost of a virtual assistant?" And then we actually had somebody answer. Amy says, "My one friend pays $350 per week for a VA." And then she also said, "I believe it depends on who you're going through." So it definitely depends on that. So what you want to look at, number one, if you're brand new, don't hire a virtual assistant. It's not a good idea. I think it's a waste of your time and money because you don't even know what the heck you're doing. You don't know if you have a lead, whether it smacked you right in the face and they were asking an amazing price. Like you don't know. So that's something, I recommend people to hire virtual assistants as they're working on like scaling up their business, or if you have a budget. Like if you have a big budget, you have maybe another full-time job that you're bringing in good money with, and you've set aside a budget that you can consistently hold for some months as you're ramping up your leads and like potential deals, then that's an okay time to do it. But if you're like scraping by and you're like, "Cody, I have a credit card and like $100," like that's not for you. I would not do that. But with virtual assistants, when it comes to hiring them, if you go and self-source, meaning you go find one on your own, you interview them on your own, you hire them on your own, you manage the payroll of them on your own, you manage all their time off, like all the things, you manage training them and all the things. You're probably going to pay anywhere from like $4 to $6 an hour is pretty regular. If you go through a service that is going to help with hiring, doing the recruiting, hiring, training, sourcing, replacing if they don't work out, because God forbid, people don't always work out in your business. Be expecting to pay for a service like that of anywhere from like $9 or $10 an hour for the virtual assistant, because you're typically having a team that's going to be behind them and helping with the things that you're working with that virtual assistant on, like your tools and things like that as well. So just something to keep in mind. Like Amy said, it just depends on who you go through. It is a shameless plug, but if you think you're ready to work on scaling up your business, I would definitely look at going to startvirtual.com. Whether you need a virtual assistant for cold calling, you need a virtual assistant for doing text marketing for you, whether you need one to do just administrative tasks for your business, great for that as well. And then also bookkeeping. If you need to have bookkeeping taken care of, over at Start Virtual, our bookkeeper, Tony Counts, actually came and partnered with us to launch a bookkeeping service for her to build a team of bookkeepers. And so that is something that is offered over at startvirtual.com as well. So let's see what some of these questions here. It looked like, oh, interesting. Let me see. Um, I actually saw some. What was this question that I saw here? A lot of good questions here. T-Town Supreme, Cody, love that you're doing Sunday service. Love the value you bring. Thank you. Sometimes it can feel like uh, I am just saying the same things over and over again, but I realize different people are, coming in, they're leaving. Different people are, somebody, this is their first day they've ever watched Sunday service, and they're like, why am I watching this crazy guy with this peace sign on his hat talk about like lists and data and this weird stuff? And why are they giving these things away? But to you, that's this their first time listening in. Happy to have you here. This was a good one. Tiffany says, how is your day going, Cody? Nobody ever asks. They always say, where's Cody or where's Pace? Nobody ever asks, how's Pace? How's Cody? Right. So thank you, Tiffany. I'm doing well. I had an amazing like dinner, I would call it, because it wasn't quite dinner, but it was like kind of a lunch / dinner earlier, like some steak, some sweet potatoes, and some bacon wrapped asparagus. Fire. I'm living my best life, Tiffany, so I can't complain. Liam says, what's the sexiest lead source? So sexiest would, to me, when I think sexiest, I think the that in a couple different ways. It's one would probably be the fastest way to get a deal, which is the people with the most amount of pain, right? The most amount of pain that you can then go and solve that problem for. And I would say that's probably going to be pre-foreclosure. So if you don't have a big budget and you can only work on certain types of lists, pre-foreclosures would be the one that I would go after. If I needed to get a deal and I had to get it from marketing and it wasn't like a joint venture deal, I would be going right after pre-foreclosures, because there's an obvious, like, their hand is raised that I have financial difficulties. I'm not paying my mortgage. There are things going on in my life that are causing me to not pay my mortgage, and I need help, probably. That is why I would go after pre-foreclosures. Probates are great, but they can take some time because there's like court stuff going on. There's, the family, there's multiple family members usually involved in those that you're working through. Those can be great. For like bread and butter, one of the favorite lists for us are, 55 plus absentee owners. And again, like we're in sunshine states. Like, we'll do marketing in Florida. We mainly do it in Arizona, but I like 55 plus because typically in Arizona, for example, there's a lot of people there. It's their second homes, or people, when they're 55 plus, they're retiring. So they might be moving somewhere else. In Arizona anyways, when they're 55 plus, they might be, selling a second home in the area. And, a lot of people are snowbirds in Arizona. So we get a lot of snowbird properties, and we really we built the avatar around like our favorite seller. The favorite seller that we buy from is typically somebody that's, 55 plus. Number one, they've owned the property for typically 10 or more years. So they've owned the property for a while. So 10 or more years, probably have equity, right? They probably have a lot of equity in the property. And then third is they're absentee, meaning it's a second home. It's an investment home. So they don't have, maybe as much emotional attachment to the property. And the reason that I like those sellers a lot is because they're typically some of the more reasonable ones, because they're not living in it. They don't think it's the next best thing since sliced bread. They're, people that are living in their homes and selling it to you. They always think it's better than everyone else's. So when it's a secondary home or it's an investment home and they've owned it for a long time and they're older, what we find is there's a good amount of those sellers that like convenience selling, not where you have to go and, bang them over the head and try to get this killer deal and, just get it for 50 cents on the dollar. Like, a lot of the times we get these sellers and they'll sell it to us where, we'll make, like, for example, like we have a deal that the guy just, he was older. He had stuff in the house. Like, it was his second home. He lived in Minnesota, and he had a primary, his his second home was in Arizona. So he'd stay in Minnesota during the summers, come down to Arizona in the winters. Now he's older. He's like in his 80s, and he's just like, I'm just not going to come down there that much anymore. And I don't want to list it and go through the hassle of like cleaning out the stuff out of the house. I don't want to have to go through fixing it up and getting it list ready and responding to inspections and all these things with the realtor. And so for him, it was like if he could just get some of his stuff that was in the house shipped to Minnesota back to him and just be done with the house and just like wipe his hands clean, he was okay to take a little bit of a discount. So that's what he did. We bought this property for 290,000. It needed about 30,000 in work, and it was worth 400 after we fixed it up. Now, was that like the most killer deal in the entire world? No. We still ended up making about 40 grand on it. But for him, he didn't have to fly to Arizona, go through all of his crap. He had some family members in Arizona that went there, packed up his stuff, got it shipped back to Minnesota, so he didn't have to deal with it. All the other junk he left, so he didn't have to one fly to Arizona, two pack up his stuff or get all of his junk thrown away. Three, there was a lot of little things that needed to be fixed, just little plumbing stuff here, a lot of cosmetic things that needed to be fixed. So he was able to avoid those things as well. And then four, he didn't have to go to Arizona. Like that was like a big thing for him. Like when you're in your 80s and it's like 120 degrees out, like you don't really enjoy Arizona that much. So that was, and he didn't want to have the stuff move, get to him in Minnesota when it was freaking snowing either. So it was like this debacle of like, going in Arizona when it's 120 versus like moving in the winter when it's nice in Arizona and having all that stuff get there when it's snowing. So those type of sellers are my favorite because like you're just dealing with reasonable people. For those of you that actually do deals, what you start to realize after some time is like you don't need like these like ridiculously motivated people. You need reasonable sellers, people that are able, willing to sell for a reasonable price where you're going to make some money. You're not going to get a home run, steal the deal type deal, but reasonable, base hit deals. Like those are the deals that we like, and I'm happy to do those all day long. Oh, let's see what other questions are here. Yep, someone said I hired a VA new and it was a waste. Agreed. Yep. You don't want to do it when you're brand new. Like if you don't know what the heck you're doing and you don't have a budget, it's a quick way to blow your load of any savings that you do have. You want to do it when you're ready to scale or if you have a consistent full-time job where you're having money that you can set aside. Okay. So Mike from Boulder says, Cody, talk for a second about pulling 10,000 random records versus a number of smaller niche lists for cold calling and the difference in results. So like the way to really like maximize like your budget that you're going to be spending, especially when you don't have a ton of budget, is go for like the juiciest opportunity type of leads, right? So niching down your list instead of just pulling like 10,000 records of absentee owners, like going instead to a list of like pre-foreclosures, another list of probate, another list if you're in a state that these do well in tax default. Those would be three really good little niche lists that you can go after. And then another niche list could be go and talk to 10 different fix and flippers in your market. Go find their favorite zip codes that they like to buy flips in, and then create a custom list of all of those fix and flippers zip codes that they like to buy in, do like the median price point in those zip codes, and then do people that have owned those properties for like 10 years or more, do people that are 55 or 65 plus. Another niche list that we like to do in Arizona on our marketing that could be more niche is like 2-story homes where the people are 65 plus. Because why? And then they're owner occupied, because most of the time people that are 65 plus that have 2 stories are getting to a stage in their life soon where they don't want a 2-story. They don't want to be walking up and down stairs. It does not feel good on their joints. It does not feel good on them, right? So that's like just a niche thing of like, okay, thinking about the people that would be selling and what does that also fall in? 65 plus 2-story homes falls in my reasonable sellers equation where they've likely probably owned the property for a long time, at least 10 years. So things start to change. So the reason you don't want to just pull like 10,000 random records is like, yes, you can get results from it, but if you only have a limited budget, it would only make sense. It would be irresponsible of you to go and pull random data. It would be irresponsible of you to just pull 10,000 random records. You want to pull the niche stuff where there's the highest levels of motivation, the highest level that there's a chance that somebody wants to do a deal with you. Those are the people you want to be talking to. Let's see. Lots of good feedback here. Somebody asked, what was the company name again for virtual assistants? When you're ready to scale, not if you're brand new. Startvirtual.com is a great place to go if you're looking to scale, or if you're at any point in your business and you need bookkeeping services, you can go and book a call. Our bookkeeper that we've used for years now is building her bookkeeping team over at Start Virtual. Okay, I'm gonna get a couple other questions here. I'm gonna answer a couple questions here. I did pull a couple lists. I know because we're running out of time, and I really enjoy answering the questions instead of just pulling lists and like boring everyone to death on here. I wanted to answer some questions and bring some value that way. But I will be getting the Jacksonville and then the Savannah, Georgia list. I'll get those into a Google Drive and then get those shared to the sub 2 group. So the sub 2 students can share those with people that go into the Creative Finance with Pace Morby Facebook group, and you can check that out. Marco, if Cody made more Zooms, I would definitely drop everything. This gentleman spits fire with the right questions asked. I need help on my YouTube channel. I can, make answers to questions. Hit me up on Instagram. If you have some questions that would be like if you have questions that you think would be helpful to a lot of people, not just super specific, like I have this deal in Georgia. It's like a commercial mixed with residential property. I can get it on a sub 2 seller finance hybrid situation with a 3-year balloon. I need help underwriting it. There's no comps. Can you do something with this? Like, don't send me a message like that, please. I can make something more, I can make something a little bit more general, but could also answer your question. You can go to my Instagram, and I'd be happy to, make some YouTube videos around the questions that you might have. This is, if you don't already know, where is my name at on this dang thing? Here it is. So if you do not already have me on Instagram, you can go to Cody Barton Official on there. I will never ask you for money. There's been people that are faking Pace's profile and mine and asking people for money. We will never ask for money on Instagram. So you don't have to worry about that. But you can follow me on there. Shoot me a DM with questions. I'd be happy to make YouTube videos on those and answer anything on there as well. Okay. And when Pace comes back next Sunday, maybe Pace and I can pull a couple more lists. I just didn't want to make this entire call about just pulling lists and just boring everyone to death. So I hope that the question answering here was able to bring more value than just doing that. Mark says, what classifies an absentee owner? So an absentee owner is just somebody that they're not living in the residence, right? It's either their rental property or they're not living in it full time. Like they have their mailing address going somewhere else than like the residence that you're marketing to. That's really all it is. All right, let me see if I can just get a couple more questions answered and then wrap this bad boy up. T-Town says, Cody, how do you think immigration and massive influx into certain states will affect markets? So if you're in the markets where migration is going to, and you have been investing in real estate and you are investing in real estate, I think there's a lot of opportunity still there. That's why Pace and I are still buying in Arizona. Places like Florida, Texas, a lot of people going to those areas. I think the markets where people are leaving, like California. There's still people going to California, but there's a lot of people that are leaving California. There's a lot of people that are leaving New York. Markets where it's just not friendly to business, where it's just not friendly to a lot of like the freedoms of like being able to like go out and do stuff. Most states it seems like most states are, lax now and like open to do whatever. But during the last couple of years, like people now going more virtual are going to be moving. Like the thing that happened in these last couple of years is people are going to be traveling and realizing, wow, I get paid. I live in San Jose, California, or I live in Silicon Valley, and I'm making 250 grand a year, which is like I'm just able to survive making that living in Silicon Valley type money. To I'm making 250 grand a year. Now I'm remote. I can go move to Texas, Dallas, and 250 goes a lot further than it goes in Silicon Valley. Or they're in New York and they're making, 100 grand a year. And it's like, it's tough if they're, depending on what part of New York you're in, and they can move to Florida, they can move to Tampa, they can move to Orlando. And they're like, 100 grand a year here goes a lot further. Right. So I think just with the economy just going more virtual, there's going to be a lot of more income diversification. Like we're seeing that a lot in Arizona, where people are able to work remote. I had some family that that actually moved to Arizona, that they had been stuck in California at their job, but they just went remote during COVID. And now they're higher income earners. They're able to move and have a great lifestyle here, versus like it's not that much considering based on where they're living in California. So I think there's a lot of things that are going to be changing from that. But I'm very biased. I would only ever invest in, honestly, for landlord friendly states. I would never touch a property that's in a blue state. Sorry to everyone in blue states, but it's a business thing. I don't want to have to wait a year to evict a freaking tenant that's not paying me in a property that I own. I just won't do it. It's up to you. There's states that have great appreciation. California is one of them, where the markets just appreciate like crazy. So there's pros and cons too to being in some markets and not being in other markets. But that's just something that we look at, that we would just only want to be in a market where we're able to have control of the property. Lower property taxes for us is important. And then also, which is why we're not really buying too much in Texas, because property taxes are high. But that's, I guess, my 2 cents on it. Okay, let's grab one more good question here. Aaron, thank you. Aaron donated $50. I don't know where that goes. I think that goes to Pace's Instagram. So he'll be excited that you got, or Pace's YouTube. I think he'll be stoked about the youth, about what's it called? Probably getting some sushi or something. Appreciate it, Aaron. Thank you for the support and the help here. Just being here and supporting what we're doing. I'm looking for one more good question, and then I'm gonna close us out here. Tell us about your last deal. So just bought a deal this week. Went under contract on a duplex that we're working on turning into a triplex. There was a third unpermitted addition in the back of it. My girlfriend Hayel actually brought this deal to Pace and I for us to buy. So we're buying it as a duplex with a third unit in the back. We're gonna, once we close on it, I'll make a YouTube video on this one because this is an interesting one. So this back unit isn't permitted. So we're going to go to the city. We're going to work on getting a separate meter and electrical and doing everything the city wants to get it a permitted third unit, so we can increase the value and then increase the rent that we're able to charge in this third unit that's already on the property. So that's how did it go? Well, I'll update you on YouTube because I'm pretty stoked about it. It's going to rent really well. Okay. Uh, Joel says, "Don't California my Texas." That's funny. Pace and I never like to get political. We're pro business, so If you can imagine, Charlotte says, don't forget about rent control in California. Yeah. So, if you can think about the states that would be the most pro business, that's where we're going to be doing business at. That's really it. Um, This is so funny. This is I'm gonna leave it on this. So to some people, 250,000 a year is wealthy. Depends on where you live and your expenses. That's exactly it, and that's where this economy is changing. The world is changing because people are migrating to different markets. Because they are able to be virtual now. So, super, super exciting times. I think there's a lot of opportunity in real estate over these next couple years. The market will be shifting as we all see interest rates going up. We will start to see some changes, but it is exciting times nonetheless. So, guys, for those of you that are Sub 2 students, I will get the drive with those lists posted into the Facebook group, and you could share those in the creative finance group with different people in there that you can squat up with. Um, Hopefully I was able to answer some questions or give some insight that you each one of you on here can go and take some actionable, actionable steps on. This isn't just for fun. It's I hope that you're able to learn things from here, go and implement, and then have an actual change happen in your life that makes something in your life better. So that's why we do this. Again, for those of you that were tuning in for the first time, Sunday service every Sunday, 7 p.m. We are again sponsored by Batch Leads, so you can check them out. Batchleads.io/Sunday for 5,000 free records. And I hope everyone has an amazing week. My birthday is this Friday, May 20th. So send me a birthday message because I won't see you guys until next Sunday. But with that, we'll see you guys. Have an amazing week.